Yeah.
One thing I want to talk about, obviously, you guys making the... Oh, my bar knock came off.
All right, one second.
It happens, man.
It happens. God damn.
We would have loved to have, someone to lean on, but, it is what it is. I played at a high level, but at the end of the day, I wanted to make sure kids that look like us didn't have to go through that. So at the age of 25, I decided to start Apna Hockey.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another BTR podcast. Today, we're not joined by not just one guest, we're joined by two. Once again, returning to the pod, he's the content creator of Apna Hockey, Tanroop Mahal, and joining us once again as well, the founder of Apna Hockey, Lali Toor himself joins us well. Thank you guys for joining us. How are you guys doing?
Good,
Not too bad, man. The snow is keeping us in house, so it's really cold out here, man. Let me tell you that much.
Oh, it's freezing right now. Yeah, we're in a cold plunge here. It's not 4 or 5 degrees anymore. That's for sure.
It makes sense. We're in BC, so it's raining for us. So you guys probably like doubled that.
I was in Vegas. I was in Vancouver a few weeks ago, and it was like torrential downpour.
That one. There was that. Like recently, we just had the wind warnings. Like we're like all power shut. And ours was fine, thankfully, but a lot of areas powers were shut down. Like the wind was insane. Like I was waking up to like glass breaking in the backyard or something like that too.
Just to let you guys know that this is a Beyond the Radar history, first ever 4-person pod. I know it's online, so it's a little bit like, I guess, scuffed, but I'll still count it. So I guess thank you for both of you guys showing up at the same time, because we have never done with 4 people before.
Oh, thank you.
All right, well, we'll get right into it. Lali, I want to start off with you because Tanroop, we asked you this last time, and you could feel free to answer this as well. It's been a couple of months since the Oilers did lose the cup. How long did it take for you guys to officially overcome the sadness?
So, I mean, the cherry on top, I guess, with the Oilers playoff was that they beat the Vancouver Canucks in round 3.
Okay.
Right? So that was the cherry on top. I did tell all my cousins and family and friends in the Lower Mainland that the Edmonton Oilers would sweep them, so I was very wrong about that. And I'll give credit where it's due. Vancouver had a hell of a team. Like, I mean, that is one of the best teams I've seen them put together. Obviously, they couldn't keep it together, right, with the salary cap and everything. But wow, did you guys ever give us a hard time?
Yeah, like personally, I thought we would have lost the series in 6. I said, the fact that I went 7 with the injury or like the Besser blood clot and then Demko being hurt, I was happy with the season overall. But we'll definitely get into more of the hockey talk later. Tanroop, you finally over it?
I think after yesterday, I'm still not. I thought I had a chance to get over it, and then yesterday I was like, "This is my time to see it live and like see what's gonna happen." And then the heart's still shaking up. But honestly, I think the team is looking really solid this year. I think after Banner Kane comes back, I think you can see a different Oilers team for sure.
At least you guys got a hell of a game there, though. If that rematch was like just back and forth, and I know you guys were both there.
Yeah, I was down in Florida for game 1 and 2, and down there, I mean, they shut us down completely. Bobrovsky was he was basically a brick wall down there. And it didn't matter how many shots McDavid, Draisaitl, Hopkins, the whole team. It didn't matter how many shots you had on net. Bobrovsky was going to find a way to save those pucks.
Yeah.
But then after they were down 0-3, everybody kind of lost hope. And then
that was the worst part, because it was like 0-3, you'll be pissed for a couple of days, and Florida was expected to, I guess, win at that point. But then you're like, the high, you guys got the hope, and then crashing down at the end, unfortunately.
Oh, man, it was wild though. When they came back here and when they beat the Florida Panthers, I think they won by at least 5 or 6 goals that game. I'm at the JW Marriott, so the moss pit is actually back there. So this whole place was rocking. I've never seen Edmonton like that. And but again, when they came back from 0-3. The main thing I was telling myself was like, oh my God, if McDavid does this, he is instantly goated as the greatest of all time, because no one's ever done that. Down 0-3 in a cup final, come back. That's why he won the MVP, the most valuable player of the playoffs. But that trophy doesn't mean a whole lot to him.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll get right into it though here. Lali, again, we'll start off with you here. Before even Apna Hockey was a thing, how did your interest in hockey grow? Your playing career? Was it a watching thing? Overall, what was your whole story before Apna Hockey when it comes to hockey as a sport?
So actually, I grew up here, born and raised in Edmonton, Alberta. I'm from Northside Edmonton, and when I was born, 4 years later, my father put me in hockey. So he was a big field hockey guy back in Punjab. So when he immigrated in the early '80s, he saw Gretzky, Messi, and all those guys lifting cups. So, he loved ice hockey. So 4 years later, he put me on the ice, and I excelled at it. And I started playing with some of the best 1992 age group kids, guys like Colin Pareko, guys from like Brendan Gallagher, Alex Petrovic, a good friend of mine. He plays in the minors right now. But I mean, I was always around the top players in my age group growing up, and that's kind of where I fell in love, right? I mean, I wanted to be a goalie initially, but the problem was they put the pads and the blocker and the glove on me, but I was skating quicker than most of the players. So the coach kind of put me to the side, like, "Hey, kid, you're not a goalie. You're definitely a forward." So that kind of kickstarted everything, and then I was really good. Was a really good skater. Went through the trials and tribulations of being a minority in hockey, right? I mean, unfortunately I got to know that I do look different. I never saw anyone that looked like me, played against anyone that looked like me, unless I would come to Vancouver. Then I saw a few players, but for the most part, never had a coach that looked like me or us. And that's kind of what kind of started up in hockey later on, was kind of like the shortcomings of my career, right? Because I mean, I felt very alone growing up. I didn't have anybody, to look up to. So I had heard of a few players growing up, like Gary Toor. He's from Vancouver, BC. He played on the WHL team here back when Edmonton Ice used to be a thing. So, I mean, at a very young age, I was always curious about, hey, is there more of us, right? Like, are there more South Asian hockey players? And, that's where it grew. And then by the time I was kind of done with hockey, I was kind of done with it because of the overt racism was always there. The systemic stuff really hurt me quite a bit. Again, it's just no mentors, no one to talk to. It's just me and my father going through it. And, we would have loved to have, someone to lean on, but, it is what it is. I played at a high level, but at the end of the day, I wanted to make sure kids that look like us didn't have to go through that. So at the age of 25, I decided to start Apna Hockey. As you know, Apna means hour, and it's turned into quite a bit of a movement, I guess. Definitely a lot more than, it's been 8 years this April. We started out with hockey camps. We still do collaborations with different NHL teams. But I think the most biggest thing we've been able to do is create a platform for us to speak, right? Because, I mean, when I played, I was a quiet player, right? I mean, I couldn't speak up on some of the stuff that was happening to me. But now we got a voice, right? We got a platform. We got a whole movement. And as you can tell with the whole platform, we have females that are playing at a very high level, males playing at a high level. And we love to showcase these athletes, right? So, I mean, it's a full-blown movement at this point. I mean, every time we highlight players, it's like, man, the list just keeps growing. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, no, that's insane to see, because every time even you guys and Hockey Night in Canada, Punjabi, we see like not even just Canadians, but people down south in America, like all over. Like I think what was the Sia Grewal, I believe is her name.
Yeah,
who captains like the short. Saya, yeah,
from San Jose. Yeah, she got to NCAA Div 1. Maria Roth, she's a Pakistani. Her parents are from Pakistan, and she got a Div 1 scholarship to Yale women's hockey, right? So, man, I mean, the girls this year, I mean, like, we have a good family friend here from Edmonton, Niru Shippel, and Niru's daughter, Jaya, actually got committed to Minnesota State. So, I mean, the list of girls playing Division I NCAA hockey, or University of U Sports, which is a Canadian sports league for athletes. You're seeing so many girls in there, and I think like the list keeps growing on, and I think they're outpacing the guys right now too.
Yeah. I think what helps is definitely the PWHL now going into its second year. That's obviously helping grow, because obviously, yes, the goal is to get a Punjabi Kudi or any Apni Kudi to play in that league, right? But like for now, people could look up to if you're Canadian, Marie Philip Poulens, if you're American, a Taylor Heisey or Hillary Knight, for example, right? And even overseas in Europe as well.
Oh, for sure. And like we are so close to seeing the first South Asian PWHL player, like no joke. It's coming, right? Tanroop, I'm pretty sure you can talk about our experience at NHL All-Star Weekend with Madeline Rai.
Honestly, I think when those players, so we brought out a female hockey player to the NHL Toronto All-Star game. We just wanted to show her the experience it would be like for her to, experience the playing field of what she can do, all right, and where she can be. And like that's an eye-opening for anyone that actually attends those types of events, because it shows you where your future path aligns and where it goes. So like before the actual game and festivities, we actually met up with the PWHL players on the ice and just took some pictures and took all that in. And I know for her, it would have been like an unreal experience to meet with players, talk with players, and get the behind the scenes look of Scotiabank Arena and stuff like that. So she actually loved it. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be a blast.
Yeah. So like when these athletes, like when they're at their highest level, like that's kind of the connection we want to bring, right? Like Madeline got a full ride scholarship to Western University, one of the top female athletes in her community. And we sent a message to her that we're like, hey, we want to bring her out to the All-Star game. She needs to connect with PWHL players. Cause guys, when you see that, that hockey player and he has a, picture of him as a kid with Ovechkin or Patrick Kane or Sidney Crosby, then like 5-6 years later, he's on the ice with them. Right.
Yeah.
I want to create those experiences for a top half.
Yeah, like Connor Bedard when his debut was against Crosby at the faceoff circle last season, right? So it's pretty much that. But Lali, going back to yourself for a little bit here, I don't want to age you, but where was Jujhar Khaira along that line? Because obviously the only other hockey player we know in the history was Robin Bawa, and I know you're not that old.
No, not Robin. No, Robin. Yeah, I was with them a few weeks ago in Vancouver. Yeah. I'm definitely. But
so where was Jujhar Khaira already in the league when you were playing up and coming, or were you playing well alongside him? Like, what was the story with that? Because he was a former Oiler.
Yeah, he's a former Oiler. So I personally didn't play at the highest level, like the WHL. I had a stint with a junior A team, stint with a college team here, but I ended up just calling it quits. Funny story with Jujhar. One of my close friends growing up, we played hockey together. He's a goalie. And he was actually trying out for the Prince George Spruce Krings, which is the junior A team at the time in the BCHL. And he made the team, and he messages me. He's like, Lali, there's this kid here. He looks like you. I'm like, what do you mean he looks like me? He's like, he's brown. Really? And I'm like, the goalie was like, he's a really good hockey player. I'm like, okay, that's good. And I was like, how big is this guy? He's like, man, he's like 6'3", 6'4". He's only like 16, 17 years old. Right. And I'm like, what's his name? He's like, Jujhar Khaira. And I'm like, that's the first time I heard of him. Right. So he played on my friend's team in Prince George. And I think that year or the year after, he got drafted to the Edmonton Oilers. I personally haven't met Jujhar yet, though, but maybe in the future we get to, do some work with Jujhar, because at this point, I think we know a lot of South Asian hockey players.
For both of you guys, how's the soccer scene there? Because, Lali, you mentioned that you were in hockey and you were like, one of the few or the only Punjabi player. Here, like the easiest sport to get, like overall, the easiest sport to get into is soccer or basketball, especially with the rise of the Raptors as of like the 2019 championship. So like I know the Edmonton weather situation during the winter isn't the greatest, but like how is the soccer scene there? And is that the big reason why hockey wasn't as popular? Because for us here, soccer was the sports that we got into growing up.
So I played soccer growing up too, right? Up until the age, I think 11 or 12, that's kind of where I took hockey a bit more seriously, because I was playing AAA. But I mean, soccer was there with me too, right? During the winter, we play indoor, right? So there's indoor fields here. We were not out in the snow like you were.
Yeah.
But I mean, we produced some really good soccer players. Have you guys heard of Alphonso Davies?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I don't think I can name one person from Vancouver that has made it to Alfonso's level yet. So I think Edmonton's got this on the soccer side.
Shout out my cousin Jeevan Badwal. He's on the
He's sick too. Yeah.
All right, I gotta give a Surrey boy.
Even another one, right? But I mean, look at Alfonso. He's another North Side kid. He's like me, right?
Yeah.
Came from nothing, right? War torn country. Came to Montreal, moved to Edmonton. His neighbors used to take him to practice, right? And like the story is incredible. So anytime we get to see, Alfonso or Fonzie, downtown here in Edmonton or the holiday break, we're always giving them high fives and everything.
Yeah, for sure. And then obviously here playing in Vancouver, people run into him like at the UBC fields down here because of training back then before he went off to Byron as well. I mean, no, that's interesting. So with now going towards the Apna Hockey, as you mentioned, you wanted to be that voice, right? You bring in a guy like Tanroop. Talk about Tanroop here, how his job as a content creator elevates the role of you guys to, like 8 years. Obviously, Tanroop's been here for less than 8 years, but like, how has that risen And to the point where now, not even all North Americans are seeing these Punjabi or brown hockey players, female or male.
So Tanroop jumped along last year, and I have to say, Tanroop brings a different set of eyes. I'll tell you, I listen to a lot more Punjabi music now, and I am a lot more artists. So, I mean, again, Tanroop brings a different side, right? So, I mean, I'm focused more on, players, relationships with the league, its respective teams, creating, different types of programs. And then Tanroop comes in with a whole different set of eyes, right? We're an all-star game in Toronto, and this kid calls up Linus Core, the girl from Brampton that got endorsed by Drake. Have you guys heard of her?
Yeah.
So we brought her out. Yeah, we brought her out to an all-star event. We had Madeline Rye there. And this is Tanroop's, his thought process, like, let's bring them together. Let's do some content with them. We got one of the top, up-and-coming rap artists in our community, and we have the top female hockey player. Why don't we bring them together, right, and see what happens? So, I mean, again, it's just the creativity. I think one thing that Tanroop does really well is the creativity side, right? With the content creation, coming up with video ideas, even when we're traveling and doing stuff, he's always coming up with new ideas. And I love how he is able to connect to the artists, because what we're seeing today, guys, is a huge movement, right? Not only in hockey now, it's in all sports and in the music industry, right? So when that happens, you want to be connected with the artists. And I mean, I was down in LA for the Indian Culture Night last year or earlier this year. AR Paisley's there. I'm like, hey, Tanroop, like, hey, AR is going to be there. He's like, no problem. Somehow this guy has his number. And he's like, and then I get a message from AR. He's like, yo, I am hearing you're in town. We link, do some content. And, in the future, he's a big hockey fan, right? There's ways to incorporate these, these superstars in our community, from the music side, because music and sports always goes hand in hand, right? And I think that's where Tanroop just fits in perfectly.
Tanroop, what about you? I know we chatted last time, but even further from that point when we talked a couple of months ago, how's the journey now, even with the rise of Apna Hockey?
Yeah, the journey is honestly, it's a passion journey that has a lot of deep history to it as well. So Apna Hockey has a deep history to it. It's recognized almost anywhere I go in Edmonton, people are going to recognize what Apna Hockey is, and especially sometimes my face, right, at a couple of events. And then honestly, just going to all these games and making stories and reaching out to organizations. Like the surprising thing was, like, my school where I go in Edmonton, NAIT, it's Northern Institute Technology of Alberta, my college here. They saw Apna Hockey. Like, one of the journalists saw about it, and they saw it on my bio and stuff, and they sat me down for an interview. And then a couple months later, there's a whole article on me on what I did with Apna Hockey and what Apna Hockey has done in the hockey field. So in that way, it's getting recognized a lot. And I think that's been the best part about it, is when you get recognized, even in situations that you didn't think it was going to be, right? Even my face, or even just in general, the name of Apna Hockey, right? And that term Apna is so strong that anyone can resonate to it in the Edmonton community, or even just beyond, right, North America. And people have questions. And then when they come up to me, they want to ask what Apna Hockey is. And then that's where I can come in to tell them what it is, right? If all these non-South Asian people who want to know what it's about, I think that's the important part, is to educate them about the platform that we have. Because it's already big in our South Asian community, but I think it has so much potential to collaborate with other organizations to make it bigger as well.
And Tanroop, like, even today, like, just to piggyback off Tanroop,
yeah,
I got a message from a city councilor today saying, hey, you ran.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I'm literally connecting with him in a couple of weeks to maybe we can do some work, in his ward, right? So again, like, we work off each other beautifully, right? And he has my back, I have his, and like, my eyes look at different stuff, right, when it comes to hockey, but his eyes come from a different perspective, right? Tanroop didn't grow up playing hockey, right? I mean, his perspective is completely different, and that's why I'm always telling, the National Hockey League, hockey in general, I think you don't need to be a hockey player to be a fan of the game, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. That's a perfect example right there. And there's so much migration, guys, that is happening from South Asia to North America. How are we going to capture these South Asians as hockey fans if there's nothing like Apna Hockey around? No, there should be a community there that recognizes and uplifts one another. That way we can, grow the fan base of hockey too.
Yeah, no, okay. I want to say one thing. Well, you mentioned how you got into Punjabi music and Punjabi culture even more. If you were like a bystander in our pod last time, the first, I want to say half an hour to 40 minutes was just us talking about Punjabi movies, Punjabi food and all that stuff. Because you're talking to two big Punjabi movie fans here as well.
Yeah. No way. Yeah. I mean, I'm listening to like, we met big shout out to Prob Music, right? We saw him at the Oilers game last night. Like, man, like I'm listening to 945 like all the time because it's true. And then he tells me, yo, this kid's from Edmonton. I'm like, what? This guy's from Edmonton? So like, it's cool, right? Here in Edmonton, we got a pretty tight-knit community, right? Everybody knows everyone. I mean, that goes the same with Vancouver, Toronto, right? Los Angeles, New York. We got tight-knit communities out there, right?
I think now that's coming up, though, is the Juno Awards. So that's actually coming in Vancouver next year in March. If you know anything about it, how AP performed, and then Karnajla won the award, that was the first time any South Asian artist actually went to like a North American award show, right? So the brown skin was finally getting recognized. The brown music was finally getting recognized. And now you see people like Tory Lanez or like Gunna collaborating with these big artists, right? So that's going to be a huge step. And now if you actually look at Juno's coming up, there's going to be a lot of brown music going to be up for nominations. And like, that's going to waken up all these people who thought that music wasn't going to make it. So,
Lali, when you first started Apna Hockey 8 years ago, if you were to sit back and reflect a little bit here, did you expect it to grow this quickly and how at a rapid pace and how far it gone? Like if you were to look back and just think to yourself.
No, I actually didn't. I still remember the day. It was in my head for a while, and it actually took a professor to kind of, hey, Lali, if you don't do it now, when are you going to do it, right? It was that kind of moment. I was at the Oilers game with them, and it just so happens Brendan Gallagher was playing for the Montreal Canadiens, Oilers versus Canadiens. And I was telling my prof, I was like, hey, like I used to play with this kid growing up, and he's like, what happened? I told him my story, and then I told him about the idea of Apna Hockey. He's like, what are you doing about it? And I'm like, it's just an idea. He's like, why don't you do something about it? Start a camp. Who cares if two kids show up? It doesn't matter, right? Just start something. And literally that next day I made some business cards, set up a meeting with some people here in Edmonton. And I was like, let's do our first event at the Nugget Kirtan, 2017. And that's kind of how it started. And when I'm reflecting back at it, I'm like, holy man, I did not expect this, right? It's just the stuff that makes me happy is not even how big it got, but how many athletes and how many parents and how many people in our community generally love hockey, right? From the athlete perspective, from the fan perspective. And I just love seeing the community in different parts of, North America cherish that, be fans of it, be excited for it. Like, I mean, just to bring it back to the series between Vancouver and Edmonton, man, some of the videos coming out from Surrey, man, I died laughing. It was so funny. That little kid that was chirping Hyman. Oh, man, I cried laughing when I saw that.
I was fun because, like, I'll be honest with you, I was not a big fan of that, especially like just the chirping, because
it was a little too much with the language.
Yeah, and same on the flip side, the content creator. You guys have Josh doing the Punjabi swearing as a door off in the box. Yes, I get it. It was funny. Like, I know I'm not discrediting anyone, but they're free to do whatever they want.
That was hilarious. At least you show the passion, Yeah, there's passion.
Yeah, I don't condone the bad language, especially as is very young, right? But that was pretty funny, right? But again, I don't condone the language, though.
Yeah. The timing of when you started was also good for especially you guys being in Edmonton, because that's when the Oilers kind of started getting into the playoff mix a little bit, right? McDavid's been a couple of years. You guys do have the best player in the world, right? And like even guys from America are tuning in. They know who Connor McDavid is. So like for you to introduce it then, I think it was the perfect timing, because like if it was the Oilers from the 2010 to 2015 range, the interest may not have been there. And you're talking to two guys who grew up Vancouver fans because the Canucks fans, because they were good during that era.
Yeah. They were.
If it was the era before last year, like pretty much the whole Benning era, there was no interest here up until last year.
Yeah, again, guys, I have so much family down the Lower Mainland, and like most of them are basketball fans, but they, curiously, like, they become bigger hockey fans, come around playoff time. But when it comes to Vancouver Canucks, man, like it's, again, like the team has, it's seen its ups and downs, but I think it's got a really good core of players, right, to work around. And when it comes to like, the 2011, I saw that whole cup run. I didn't like you guys at all. I'm not gonna lie.
We were cheering against you in the final too.
But that whole system, it was like, it's fast, it's hard hitting, it's hard nosed, and like guys like Kessler, the Sedins, right? Like, I mean, you had Bieksa, like you had the Pests. You had a great mix of everything. And then last year when you guys put together the team with Zadorov at the end and I think Lindholm came.
Yeah.
You guys had a solid team. It wasn't going to stay together, but man, you were just like, I think honestly, one goalie or one player away from making it to the top.
I mean,
right?
Yeah, it hurts with Besser and Demko being out for sure. But I want you guys' opinion on this. We made a video after that series saying that playoff rivalry is blooming, right? Like Canucks Oilers are now, I know the Flames will always be the biggest rival because that's the same province, but at least although the Flames, to be fair to them, have started off pretty good this year, expectation wise, the Canucks and Oilers rivalry because of last year it was only going to bloom further as long as both teams are good. So for me, as much as, yes, part of me doesn't want the Oilers in the playoffs just to clown on Oilers fans, but the best case scenario is for the Canucks and Oilers to be good at the same time and make the playoffs. That's where the best chirping and talking happens, where you could get, yes, maybe not the swearing part of things, but those moments where, yes, it's a rivalry, you got the fans involved, and the timelines somewhat match, assuming, both teams are playing well.
Yeah, like, I mean, when the Oilers were playing against the Flames in the playoffs a few years ago, that series was on a different level too, right? It's just the excitement. Anytime you face another Canadian team in the playoffs, it's just a whole other ball game, right? Like, it's like, the Leafs and the Ottawa Senators or the Leafs and the Montreal Canadiens. It just adds a different level of ferocity. I mean, the compete level on the ice is, I'll be honest with you, like after the Oilers won against the Canucks, I didn't see that compete level. I thought Dallas was a walk in the park because of how hard Vancouver played the Oilers. And I was expecting more of a physical series with Dallas, but that clearly didn't happen, right? But again, it just speaks to kind of that rivalry that you get when you have two Canadian teams, right? Two very dedicated fan bases. And in the South Asian community, you know how we get, right?
Yeah.
We get rowdy, right? But I mean, as long as it's within the limits, but I mean, you want to see that kind of rivalry in sports, right? And I really hope the Canucks make the playoffs and the Oilers make the playoffs.
Yeah.
And, we do that.
Everyone's going to have eyes on that series if it does happen again this year. Yeah. But one thing I want to talk about, obviously, you guys making my bar knock came off.
All right, 1 second.
It happens, man. It
happens. God damn. It happened one time like earlier this week. Amrit started looking at me. He's like, what the hell? I was like, what's wrong with you? I was like, why you just stop talking?
It's funny because our mommy's actually a huge Oilers fan because she's from Prince George. Okay. So that whole group chat is like these guys just roasting her because she's the lone Oiler fan.
Oh, really? Yeah. No way. Yeah. There's some, you know what, like, just highlighting, I think Hockey Night in Canada Punjabi does such a great job. Randeep and the whole team out there, like they create the hype. And you know what, like there's guys in Edmonton that, when Randeep is always picking the Canucks, people are always in my ear. They're like, yo, Randeep is always picking the Canucks. There's never anything else, right? But then again, he works with the team. But it's just so fun to see the picks come in, right? From, Randeep to
Gerb and all those guys,
all those guys, right? Like,
I mean, you probably love the Takdeer because he's always like shitting on us.
I know Takdeer is always is. Yeah, Takdeer's a good family friend of my cousins in Vancouver. I mean, there's so much connection. I mean, the second you step out into the hockey community, someone's a cousin of someone, right? I mean, it's a very tight knit. It's not as as large as maybe some people think it is.
So basically, I was going to ask, because since you guys made the finals last year, and I'd say the hockey community in general, like the NHL just had such a big dub because of, one, the NBA finals were pretty boring. And on top of that, McDavid and his incredible run, the Oilers almost comeback. I think just NHL in general had such a W last year because people in America were just tuning in because there was, one, nothing else to watch, and two, you get to see the greatest player on earth at the moment play hockey and almost do something unthinkable.
Yeah, it's that unthinkable. Like, I'm still thinking about that. Like, if he would have done that, like, that's something that Gretzky's never done. Obviously, Gretzky is, the undisputed GOAT. The only person close to a Gretzky record right now out of the big three is Ovechkin. And I do believe he will get that. But man, McDavid is right there. I think, when it's all said and done, he'll probably hit the 2,000 point mark. He'll be behind Gretzky as a second in most points. But it's like the same in basketball, right? The championships matter. You need to get a Stanley Cup. And I don't think, hockey talks about it as much as, basketball or football, American football, but you need those championships, right? Doesn't matter how much skill McDavid has. I know he's a treat to watch here in Edmonton. Every time I'm at the game, my jaw's dropping. I'm like, how is this guy moving at that fast of a pace, recognizing everything around him, and he knows which way the goalie is skating backwards. Like, he is insanely smart on the ice, but it doesn't matter unless you pick up the chips, right? So it comes down to Stanley Cups. You got to finish, you got to deliver.
So that's like the crazy part. Like, we might be making a video about NHL team GOATs, and the fact that Crosby and McDavid might not even hit that because Lemieux is probably Pittsburgh's. Obviously, there's an argument case. In this case, Gretzky. Obviously, he's still a bit of a career left for McDavid. But the fact that those guys on their own teams cannot, on their own franchises, might hit the GOAT, it's insane to me. Because like Crosby is like a generational talent, and like you mentioned, McDavid himself. And the trophies matter.
Trophies matter, right? I think Crosby, that's a tough one. Lemieux, obviously, his career was shortened, right, due to health reasons.
That's the main thing.
His point, I think, points per game was outpacing Gretzky's. I think that's similar.
They're in a similar range.
Yeah, and like Mario was on a different level, right? I mean, the guy was like 6'7", a beast, right? And so skilled. But again, Crosby doesn't match up. Yager's up there too. But I mean, when it comes to the goal of the Edmonton Oilers, it's undisputed. It is Wayne, right? I mean, Wayne has done so much for this game, guys. Like, sometimes I have these conversations with, player agents, hockey players. Like, I was in Abbotsford watching Arshdeep play a few weeks ago. And I was talking to his parents during the game. And I told Uncle, I'm like, Uncle, like, what got you into hockey, right? Like, you came, when did you come, from India to Canada? He's like, I came in the 80s, early 80s. And I was like, what made you love hockey? Why is Arshdeep playing? And he looked at me, he's like, Lali, it was Wayne. And I'm like, wow, Wayne is the same reason I played. My dad loved Wayne Gretzky, right? So I don't fully think that Wayne understands how much of an impact he actually made in hockey, because it's not just hockey in general, but he made an impact on new immigrants that had just landed in Canada and the US. He made an impact on those people, because I'm living proof that, hey, I played because of Wayne. Arshdeep is playing because of Wayne, because of, Arshdeep's dad's interest in hockey, right? Wayne is the GOAT when it comes to hockey. I mean, statistics aside, I think it's also his impact. I've heard so many stories, guys. Like, I've heard so many stories of Wayne. Just, again, you always hear stories about Wayne and how nice the guy is. Will always take his time to go out, meet kids, sign autographs. And I've had friends that have worked with Wayne, around him here with the Oilers, in media. He is one of the best people I've ever, got to know. I've met him a couple times, and I can't say anything, better, for Wayne, because he means so much to the game of hockey, and he basically is hockey when it comes to that. And when it comes to growing the sport, which is what me and Tanroop do, we're growing the game of hockey, but the goal to that is also Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah, because when we hear the greatest athletes of all time, like, obviously because hockey isn't the sport in America, so it gets overlooked time to time, depending on who you're talking to. But like, he isn't the same level as Jordan, how he grew the game for guys like Kobe, Messi and Ronaldo, for especially the younger generation coming up now. For singular sports like Serena Williams, and like, he's on that level. Yeah. Like, he's on that level, right? It's just like, it's unfortunate that hockey isn't like the marquee sport in a lot of places, which we're proud that what you guys are doing is like showing like, hey, just because we're Punjabi, we still got to recognize that the true goal in rising the game towards everybody is the great one himself, Wayne Gretzky.
Wayne, right? The stories of Wayne are incredible. And we've met some pretty cool people from our community, me and Tanroop, and it all points at Wayne, right?
Yeah.
Because of Wayne. Yeah.
So as you mentioned, Tanroop's like how he helped grow Apna Hockey, right? And that's where I'm going to tie this in out with Punjabi media before we even hit the Punjabi athletes like Arshdeep Bains. Like you mentioned, Tanroop has a different set of eyes, because he's a fan more than, and you were a fan, but also a player playing at a high level. Nowadays, like, the content creation scene, not just in the Punjabi community, but the content creation scene as a whole is a lot more. Like, you're seeing a lot of guys doing YouTube, podcasts, former players or current players are literally doing podcasts in whatever sport. So I think like personally now, and we'll tie it back to all the Punjabi community, as you alluded to earlier with Hockey Night in Canada, Punjabi, Randeep, Janda, Gretzky, Takdir Thindo, Harnarayan Singh, all these guys.
Big Ace.
How much do you, both of you, how much do you guys see that merger needs to happen? Because playing a sport could only get you so far, but a guy as charismatic as Tanroop is will raise the eyes even further outside of the sports world.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to play to love it. I've seen Tanroop skate. It's not pretty, right? But his passion, that's the thing, right? And it's his passion, right? You don't have to be a hockey player to love the game, right? My dad could barely skate. He tried once and he never went back, but he loved the game though. He loved watching the game. Tanroop mentioned to me, when he came to Edmonton, when I was first starting Apna Hockey, there's a bunch of flyers I was dropping off at the Gurdwaras and put them on, vehicles. And he actually saw one of the flyers. And that's where I guess his interest kind of grew. What is Apna Hockey? What's hockey in general, right? And I mean, he's going to Oilers games now. He's interviewing players. He's doing content creation. He's around.
Celebrity ho gaya hona,
right? Like, not like having no clue what ice hockey in general is to being a huge fan of it. And what does that say about hockey? It's lovable. It's lovable. You'll fall in love with it. You'll pay attention to it. You'll root for your local team. And you'll become a fan. And I think that's what the beautiful aspect of Apna Hockey is it's a great way to integrate into the culture here in North America.
100%. I think it's also the fact that all these players and organizations are getting into that content is that, yeah, you played through it. You had a career in whatever sport, but now you have to tell the stories. Now you have to tell the behind the scenes. Now you have to go through and inspire the next generation. Yes, you already did that with playing the actual game, but I think passing on those stories has been so important. And I think one of the biggest stories that kind of got passed on to me or got shown to me was Harnarayan Singh. Like undoubtedly, like when he kind of got into the game and when he started Flames TV in Punjabi, that was an immediate hook because my parents could watch it. I know it was a rivalry, like it wasn't the Oilers, but I was still into it, right? It was something unique. And when he started that and he told a story in his book about the whole scene of how that went around, it was unreal. And now for me to get it's flipped, right? Now that I talked to him, now we know him personally. It's just a matter of fact of sharing stories because those stories are going to go so far and like it can inspire someone like me to do something better too. So for sure.
So I have a question about.
Yeah, sorry. I always like try to piggyback off Tanroop. Exactly what he just said, right? Like Harnarayan's inspiring a whole new set of fans, right? He's inspired Tanroop to get involved with hockey, right? Arshdeep, I think you're probably going to go to Arshdeep next. He's inspiring, right? Tanroop did a wonderful story on Harki Singh. Harki Singh is one of the first NHL agents in the National Hockey League. He's been in the game for over 25 years now. He's actually Arshdeep Bains' agent. Even the story that Tanroop did on Harki, on how it started, him as a hockey player, him trying to get a job, him writing a job letter to the first owner of South Asian descent, who was Sanjay Kumar at the time with the New York Islanders, getting a job with the New York Islanders, and then starting his career there. You have to tell the story, right? We always, we're always quick to, not understand people's stories. And I think it's so important especially with a platform like Apna Hockey, is to share those stories of our history in hockey. And that's why, when it comes to paying respect to the OGs like Robin Bawa, Gary Toor, AJ Bains, it's important to have that respect level, right? Because without that respect, we won't be able to do the stuff we do presently, right? You got to respect the OGs.
Yeah. One story I was going to bring up, the Nick Bonino call from Harnarayan Singh. We had Randeep Janda sharing the story when he was on the pod saying that they were invited to the Pittsburgh Penguins parade. And Harnarayan Singh went up and did the call there. And on the plane right there, they were getting recognized like, oh, you're the ones who did the Bonino call, right? And then they landed and everyone in Pittsburgh, they were like celebrities in Pittsburgh. And they were like so surprised because they didn't even know it went all the way to, Pittsburgh. But then when they were there, everyone just so hyped saying that, oh, these are the Bonino guys. These are the Bonino guys. Yeah.
I think it was either Harper or Randeep. Someone told me about that story, and I was like, because they were shocked. They're like, we didn't think anybody knew us down there.
Yeah.
But it was just so recognizable. The Benino call, like it is. The first time I met Harn Ryan, or there were maybe the second time I met Harn Ryan. My cousin is a massive Pittsburgh Penguins fan. I was like, hey, Harn Ryan, can you do me one thing? I was like, can I videotape you and you do the call and just give it to Ricky? I was like, this guy will just literally he'll save it for life, right? And Harn Ryan did it, but again, it's just like those key moments where it was the right place, the right time, the right call, and that Benino call, it recognized not only Harn Ryan and the Hockey Night in Canada Punjabi, but also the whole community itself, right?
Yeah.
Saying, wow, this community loves hockey.
I want to add on to that because I know that teams have been working incredibly hard over the past years and doing games. They set them up for success. They set themselves up for success for that moment. I know that luck happens, but when you really truly want something and like you want your community to be proud, I think opportunity just presents by himself, right? So there's so many commentators in hockey, but how do you stand out? How do you make it unique? So Harn Ryan, when you hear him on TV, he adds a little bit of touch to that. So when someone scores his first NHL goal, he'll say it's time to hand out the sweets. That's like, the babe on and all that stuff. That's unique. When someone like me or someone who's of South Asian descent or someone who's Punjabi hears that, they immediately get hooked, right? So it's about being unique and like setting yourself up for success so you can have that journey. So that was incredible.
And to piggyback what all three of you guys honestly said is like this podcast, it's obviously not just a hockey pod, but it's like try to be an overall sports pod is because of what you're doing with Apna Hockey. It's like, okay, we want to have a voice, not just for showcase, like, hey, you got two sings with Bugs, not just talking hockey, but basketball, football, baseball, when we started off with and all that stuff like that. And like, we know our stuff too. And we could show, like you said, the younger groups doing it. As Tanroop mentioned, Harn Ryan saying elevating the game for a lot of people here locally, Randeep Janda and stuff too, right? The first South Asian radio commentator for radio in NHL, right? So like even for that, like we're blessed, like what you guys are doing and like what we're doing, and honestly, not even just sports pods. Like when we were talking to Tanroop last time, like hours before midnight. Yeah, they might not be a sports pod, but there are still two sayings that look exactly like us, right? Same skin color that are like elevating content creation as a whole, right? So it's like
we're uplifting one another.
Exactly, right? I want to ask you, what's the sports media scene like? Yeah, exactly. Sorry, yeah. I was going to be like, what's the sports media scene amongst Punjabi guys, wherever you travel to? It doesn't have to be just Edmonton, but anywhere around the or across Canada or the States. Have you seen it level up ever since you've been doing Apna Hockey? In the media side of things.
Yeah, in the media side, I see such a tight-knit group, right? Like, right when I started Apna Hockey, like, I think one of the first groups to reach out was Hockey Night in Canada Punjabi. They did a whole feature on me, as a kid, what Apna Hockey is. And it was literally, I think, only 2 or 3 months in, right? So when it comes to uplifting one another, that's what it's all about, right? Like, I find, like, with Hockey Night in Canada Punjabi, it was right there from the start. I've gotten to know Amrit Gill really well. She actually is not with them anymore, but she's with Toronto Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. My relationship with Amrit has grown, over the last 8 years as well, right? Now we're working on different stuff, right? We're talking about, professionalizing Apna Hockey, et cetera, right? And it's about that tight-knit group, right? I go to Toronto, meet up with Amrit, right? Bobby Sani is another great person in our community. He runs Ethnicity Matters. He's actually kind of the mastermind, him and Sarisha of Ethnicity Matters, are kind of the masterminds behind the South Asianites that we currently see around the league outside of Vancouver now, right? So Bobby, he used to be on the board of directors of Hockey Canada. He actually just got appointed to the NHL Foundation, the Canadian side. He's on that board now. So we're seeing representation, not just in media, but in different aspects of hockey, right? And it's not just the players, it's now the employees that are behind the teams, right? Like, for example, Chico, I don't know if you guys know Chico. I think his full name is Ramandeep. He's from Prince George, and he's actually the equipment manager for the Abbotsford Canucks. So get this. You got Manny Malhotra as the coach, Harry Mahal is the assistant coach, Arshdeep's on the ice, and then Chico is the equipment manager, right? And one more, I'm missing one, but there is another person a part of that organization. But like, you're starting to see more of us, right? When I played, I didn't see any of us. So I mean, naturally, we gravitate towards one another anytime, anywhere we go, right?
I want to add on to that because I think in media and even in content, HockeyNet and Punjabi inspired so many other things as well. So, for example, the basketball CEBL, Canadian League Basketball League that we have, there's Punjabi commentary in that now.
Yeah.
Edmonton Elks, there's Punjabi commentary in that now. They're finding ways to grow the game, not just in hockey now, but other sports because they've been influenced by what HockeyNet and Punjabi already did, right? So it's been really cool to see.
Yeah, locally here with the Surrey Eagles, the BCHL as well.
Those guys as well, yeah.
We went to the South Asian night. It was really, really good for sure.
Oh, Ron and TJ do, and huge shout out to Ron and TJ and the group out with the Surrey Eagles. They do such a great job with talent development. I mean, look at Ajit Gundara. He's actually playing for Sacred Heart University, NCAA Div 1 as a goalie. Won the championship last year with the BCHL Surrey Eagles. But wow, I can't say enough about, you know, Ron and TJ and the team that they have out there with their daughter Sage. Like, they do an incredible job. Again, it's up to us to step up, you know, purchasing teams, running these teams, allowing these access points for even elite athletes to get in, right? Develop and then push them towards that next level, right? And there's so many good organizations, guys like Partap Sandhu with Partap, you know, he does a great job, you know, in Surrey itself. You guys got like Arjun Alwal with AZ1 here in Edmonton, Dampy Brower with South Asian Hockey. Man, there's so many good people in our community doing good work because the second they connect with kids that look like them, that's something I never had, man. I never had a coach that looked like me that said, hey, great job, Lali, or spoke Punjabi to me. Never. But now we have that. We have people on the ground working, you know, overtime to get these kids involved. So it's not just Apna Hockey, it's a whole movement because there's so many good individuals in this community.
And to quickly pick you up back before we get into Arshdeep Bains here is that you said the Surrey Eagles, their head coach is Scott Gomez. So and GM, coach and GM, which is insane to me because like
so when
he's a really good NFL player.
Yeah, so when I heard that, I haven't heard Scott Gomez's name in like, oh man, since I was a kid, right?
Yeah.
New Jersey, and like when I heard that, I did a double take. I'm like, is what? He's with Surrey Eagles? I kind of wanted to message them and be like, oh, that's a great signing you guys have there, right? And then, but Scott Gomez was like a household name back in the day.
As you mentioned earlier with the great calls, like he drove and mentioned Bonino. Arshdeep Bains scoring his first NHL goal on Hockey Night in Canada, Punjabi. Also scored on Diwali night, got called back. I hate the other coach for calling that goal back. But talk about like perfect scenarios, right? Hockey Night Canada, Punjabi. And yeah, even though I got called back on Diwali night, he was playing and technically did score. It didn't count. So like your reaction when you heard the call by, was it the Mantar? Like it was like probably honestly as two guys, I played that thing while I'm walking to work from the SkyTrain like multiple times. Like that's how insane it was.
It was amazing.
And that was like the perfect time. It was like that Benino call. It was just perfect timing. It was meant to be, right? And in this case, it was Arshdeep Bains scoring that first goal, right? Someone from our community, from Surrey, BC. His story, guys, is probably as good as it gets, right? Like I remember we did an event in Vancouver in 2019 for the World Juniors, and it was during the holiday break. So a lot of these athletes were in Vancouver at the time, but I invited like Tyler Sandhu, Manraj Hare, Arshdeep was there. Priya Sidhu at the time was playing for University of Calgary Dinos. A whole bunch of Partap Sandhu was there too, right? And we brought all these athletes and developers, hockey developers, and the whole community together. And that's the first time I kind of met Arshdeep, right? He just made the WHL Red Deer Rebels. Again, was never drafted to the WHL, but walked on, made the team. And once he made the team, you didn't see him decline. He actually inclined. He kept getting better year after year. Won the scoring title with Bedard in the league.
Exactly. Yeah, I was about to bring that up.
And then he signed with the Canucks, right? And then it didn't stop there. With Abbotsford, had a great rookie year. And then just last year was named to the All-Star game, right?
Yeah.
And became the MVP of that All-Star game for the AHL. And then he gets the call-up. Then he gets the goal. He is going to consistently be getting better because the kid competes against himself, right?
His story isn't just like you see here locally, Donnie and Dolly. It's not even just like he's Punjabi. That's why they're covering him. You could take his name. Just say player X. That story alone is just insane. No matter what race you are, it just happens to be a Punjabi guy, which honestly helps elevate it even more. So it's like he fought two things in one, right? The Punjabi kid and what he went through with being undrafted at the Bantam level and the NHL level.
Yeah, like undrafted, right? And it just speaks to the commitment, right? And I met him a few weeks ago, and I told Archie, I was like, yeah, you definitely grew quite a bit. And we started having a laugh about that. He's not a kid anymore, right? He's a man now, right? He's a bundle now. And with that comes a lot of responsibility, commitment to health, nutrition, training. He's got a really good crew around him, though, right? When it comes to training with Justin Rye, with Kaivo Hockey, another former athlete that helps elite players in our community, right? The list is just incredible, guys. Yeah. Like, it's not just Apna Hockey is a network, right? We can showcase these athletes, the trainers, the developers, the media members, right? We do work with NHL teams to get more kids involved. But again, the list of people that are involved with this movement, it goes way beyond just Apna Hockey, right? And Arshdeep, with his parents, meeting his parents finally, a few weeks ago, his agent Harkey Singh. Harkey's been in the game for such a long time. Arshdeep has a really good crew right around him, to make sure that, when he's taking those strides, with the Vancouver Canucks, that he's going to be pushing his own agenda and making sure that, he has that spot on that team.
I want to add on to Arshdeep a little bit on the content side, because we know when that goal happened, the whole community, majority of the community didn't know until we had a post that was featuring with Sikh Expo and all these Life of Punjabi pages. They didn't follow hockey as much, but it shook up the community ever since we posted that, because his dad was actually in town in Colorado. I think it was in Colorado and the other game as well, right? So when he scored that goal, like, it was a dad's trip for those guys too. We showed it.
No, that was his debut.
That was his debut.
Yeah, the goal happened at home.
The goal happened at home recently. So last year in March, when he made his NHL debut,
right.
Remember we were so Tanroop.
We got the video up.
Tanroop was the one who put. He's like, I was like, man, I don't know what kind of music we should put. He's like, yo, we need to hit him with Sidhu Musiala, right?
Yeah,
that thing went viral. I think that thing was 700,000 views. Like, it's wild. And like that was Tanroop's idea. I was like, yo, we got to get the clip, but I don't know what song. And he's like, I got the right one.
Yeah.
The Matta take too, like even locally here, Jeevan, our cousin, does something similar as well before he takes the field as well. But I want to have a funny question for both of you guys here. Tanroop, I know last time you said you were a Canucks fan only because of Arshdeep Bains. Let's just say Game 7, this past playoffs, Arshdeep Bains was playing. It goes to overtime. Hypothetical situation. He scores the winner. What's your guys' reaction?
I'm happy.
I'm pumped. Yeah.
Pumped? Okay.
Pumped.
The series can go any way with a guy like that scored.
Yeah. Community over everything, man. Like, because like, as much as it would hurt for the others, like, man, I want to see him do that.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
It's just I want to see people do well in hockey, right? It's like just because I never saw anyone like me, I want to see that, right? Doesn't matter who they're playing, even if they're playing the Oilers, man. If Arshdeep's in Game 7, scores the game winner, I'm pumped, right? That's it. And I think when it comes to community, man, like, anytime that stuff happens, you can't get mad, right?
Yeah, future's bright, man.
Because I'm so pumped up for that.
Like, for me, I'm a big team guy too, so I will be hurt for sure. But then it would help ease the pain way quicker than if the scripts flipped that way.
Let's just say, like, it won't be the most upsetting overtime goal ever. Like, heartbreaking. Exactly. It won't be the most heartbreaking. Like, usually the team that loses, they're like, okay, I'm not watching any highlight or anything. I'll probably be the one start watching the highlight of my team losing.
Bro, I'll go on YouTube right away. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's simple as that. I don't watch hockey so quick, like, regardless. Cool. Yeah. Just to give you an example, the Florida Panthers won the Cup. We had to post someone right after.
Okay.
You know who?
Yeah, who?
We heard that the assistant general manager, he's the head of data analytics. I think it's Sunny Mehta.
Sunny Mehta.
Okay. Yeah.
So again, another guy that never played hockey growing up was around it, but he just found a different path to hockey, right? He is now the second person of South Asian descent to lift the Stanley Cup, right? And that was right after they beat the Oilers. Yeah. I was destroyed. I was like, man, this sucks. But wow, Sunny Mehta lifted the cup.
And then the year before was Vegas ownership, right?
Vegas ownership was the first one to lift the
Lali, I have a question for you here. Do you happen to know a guy named Smitter Kayla?
Smitter Kayla, I've heard of him. He's pretty big in the ball hockey circles.
Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to bring him up, because the reason why I heard of his name was because he coaches locals at a local soccer club here. So I've heard of his name through when I coached his soccer team through one of the directors there. So I was just wondering because like he was like I looked him up a little bit. This was like obviously back 2017-ish era too. He was like known as the king of like the god of godfather of ball hockey. So, like he's one of the goats, not just in Punjabi, but overall, like taking Team India. Yeah, like taking Team India to like Prague, I think, and playing there where he got screwed when I watched that game of some goals. But I was just wondering if you had an idea of recollection or any interaction with him or anything.
Yeah, so ball hockey, so the thing is, I always played ice hockey growing up. I never actually played ball hockey. I played ball hockey, I think, in university one time. But when Dampy was with Apna Hockey, like I would always hear about Smitter, right? And how great of a ball hockey guy that he was. And, you know, at the elite level he played at. So, I mean, I always had respect for anybody that has played, you know, ball hockey at a big level, because ball hockey is it's hockey as well, right? I mean, when you look at hockey in general, you got field hockey, you got ball hockey, you got street hockey. Man, how I got into hockey, I used to go to the Gurdwara as a kid. Every Sunday, we used to take tinfoil of balls and play hand hockey. In Gurdwara, right? So anytime you have, you know, the OGs in our community that are playing at these high levels, regardless of if it's on the ice or not, that's still opening up doors for the community. Because I know I had the privilege of playing ice hockey, right? Not many players at my age group from our community got the chance to do that, right? So I'm also in a different situation, but that doesn't discredit any of the ball hockey players or the ball hockey that I've been seeing today. Ball hockey, in my opinion, is the next big thing to kind of grow the game of hockey, right? And you can see that in all the tournaments that are happening. I mean, look at all the South Asians in hockey, right? I mean, kids my age, well, not kids anymore, but adults my age, those are the ones that, you know, maybe didn't get a chance to play ice, but they played ball. And because of ball, you know, when they have families or when they have kids, you know, they're going to try out hockey or on the ice, right, with their kids. So again, ball hockey is such a big sport. And I really hope we can figure out ways, you know, with the National Hockey League to kind of bring it all together with the South Asian community.
I would love to see it in the Olympics.
Man, I think the Olympics, that would make sense. It would make a lot of sense.
For sure. Right? And then even like locally here, they do a lot of road hockey tournaments at like the local like athletic parks that we have here. So it is, I see it a little bit more now. It's called Play On, I believe. It happens in the Cloverdale area. There's like another tournament that happens as well. So yeah, no, as
you guys want to hear a funny story about Play On?
Yeah, here.
So it was here in Edmonton. This is my graduation from high school graduation year. So this is way back in 2010. And one of our friends ended up making it to the NHL, Alex Petrovic. And it was just all us hockey guys and Alex on our team. And no one knew Alex was, you know, a hockey player or whatever. We destroyed every team in that. And one team, we destroyed them so bad, like literally, I think the ref said, yo, that's enough. Like he just called it quits after halftime. So there was a player on the other side, the opposition, and we were shaking hands with everybody. And he's like, you know, good game, guys. You know, I'll see you in the NHL. I'll see you in the NHL. and he shakes hands with Alex, and we're all joking around because we're like, yo, this guy's about to get drafted in like a couple weeks.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I want to open up one last thing before we close out with a couple of topics here. Before we get to the actual current hockey talk in the NHL. Taking hockey out of the picture, just all sports, how much of a rise have you seen in the Punjabi community when it comes to Punjabi athletes? Like I mentioned, our cousin Jeevan Bidwal just signed his first contract with the Vancouver Whitecaps. We have an Olympian, Jasneet Nijjar, right, who was on the track team for the 4x400 women's race. We got like Angela Aurora for golf, right? Golf out of all things. It's a Punjabi kudi playing for University of Arizona, I believe, right? Like, how much have you guys, like, on your end? Yes, you guys are gonna obviously emphasize hockey, but like, as a all sports as a whole, you see the rise of Punjabi athletes making it big now.
We see so much, and big shout out to Navin here from Edmonton. He's from Brown Ballers. His platform does such a great job at. And I thought about this, you know, I was thinking about other sports, but my passion has always been hockey, just because I didn't feel right the way I left hockey, so I kind of wanted to, you know, work on it. But I mean, Navin's done such a great job with Brown Ballers. Honestly, every time I see his page, there's new athletes, new basketball players. I'm shocked at how many athletes there are from our community that are excelling at the highest levels, right? I mean, it goes well beyond just hockey, right? Look at basketball, right? We got a
Yeah.
chance to meet Satnam Singh a while back, and like, man, that guy he's from the Bend, right? He's
Yeah.
straight from the Bend, and he's just a tall guy. And then he got brought over to North America, started playing basketball here. Obviously, it didn't work out, but again, having him drafted, to the NBA, that's a big deal, man. Especially with so much talent coming up in our community, right? From Surrey, from Brampton, from Edmonton, Calgary, Winnipeg, down in the States. You're starting to see a massive movement, right? And it just goes well beyond hockey. When it comes to that kind of stuff, guys, like, you need platforms to showcase, right? That is the biggest thing. Because I think with social media nowadays, obviously social media is very toxic. I get that. There's a really bad part of social media, but I certainly believe that if you can use it properly, you're able to showcase and highlight and uplift one another in a positive way. Man, you can do anything with it. And I think, what Navin does with the Brown Ballers and showcasing all these athletes,
Yeah.
I'm literally just like, every time I'm looking at the page where I see it pop up, I'm smiling.
Yeah,
Sure.
those guys are absolutely killing it, because I remember they actually just had a recent tournament that they do TBT, the basketball cup. So it's $1 million one where they got a whole South Asian team. So they just made a South Asian team of Brown Ballers, right? Man, they broke. I think it was like last year, not this year when they competed, but the year before that. They upsetted the biggest team, right? And they beat them. Basically, they moved on to the second round. That was like the biggest upset in that whole tournament. So for them to like be there and present and showcase our community was massive.
One last thing with Apna Hockey, is there anything upcoming you guys have planned? Whether obviously the camps are a big thing, but like, do you guys plan on doing charity tournaments, celebrity tournaments featured by you guys to showcase the game? Anything you could share, hosting stuff, anything you guys are allowed to share right now, or is there stuff in the works?
Yeah, we got the Oilers camp coming up in January and February, so we'll have some kids coming out for that. Calgary's running their program as well. When it comes to Apna Hockey, like, the big focus, after going to the All-Star game last year with Matty Rai, like, I told Tanroop, I was like, we need to do this, at least annually with one NHL event. So we're working on the Four Nations Cup right now. So we want to bring an athlete out, and there's so many good athletes in our community that are up and coming. I think that's the missing piece. Anytime you get these up and coming athletes and they just get to be around that kind of talent, I could only imagine, guys, how I would have felt when I was playing AAA and I had an organization like Apna Hockey, and it's like, hey, Lali, we think you're gonna, you're an up and comer. We want you to come out to this event, go meet some players, because we believe in you. It's crazy what you can do when other people believe in you, guys, right? You got to believe in yourself. But when your back is against the wall and no one believes in you, kind of how I felt, growing up, it's a whole different ball game when you got a whole platform backing you, right? So Four Nations, camps. I've been having good conversations with a lot of different people. I think we're at a point, guys, with Apna Hockey, we need to professionalize this, right? We're looking actively to set a proper board of directors. That way we can do some fun stuff, get some funding in, and then we can start rolling out, the camps, some tournaments, some ball hockey stuff, right? I think once you have a team that's bigger than just myself and Tanroop, we're going to grow at a different pace, right?
Outside of the Willie O'Ree, first of all, congratulations with that, the Willie O'Ree trophy, and the All-Star experience last year. For both of you guys, what's your guys' biggest, like, I know those two are probably your biggest, like, highlights. Is there anything else you guys want to share? Like, what's your biggest highlight outside of those two?
I'll get Lali go first. I have a pretty good one.
For me, honestly, it was meeting the Vegas ownership. That meant a lot to me, and we were at the Stanley Cup party when they won the Stanley Cup. They invited us to their Stanley Cup party down in Los Angeles, and they are one of the nicest people I've ever met. Uncle, his name is Swarnjeet Singh Nijjar, someone I really look up to. Again, when they lifted the Stanley Cup, that really showed me a lot. It opened up my eyes to, wow, if you really put your mind to anything, you can accomplish it, right? So, I mean, outside of the Willie Ree and, all the experiences that we had with the National Hockey League and hockey in general, I think there's a picture of me and Swarnjeet Uncle with the Stanley Cup. That is a very cherished moment that I cherish.
I wanna quickly point out, I think this is not a massive experience, but for me it was an incredible massive experience. I'm pretty sure if you guys heard about the artist Inquisitive at all. Super amazing, talented artist in our South Asian community. He worked with almost every single Punjabi or even rap artist that you know, and he came to town at Edmonton to do an exhibition. Shout out to Sapri to organize that. But he came to Edmonton, and then my idea was just like, yo, if someone's coming to Edmonton and they've never been to a game before, what are we doing? Like, they need to see the atmosphere. So I reached out to Sapri. I was like, is there any chance we can bring it to a game? Like, this was like my biggest dream. I was like, I need to meet this guy. And like when he was finally coming in town, I was super pumped. So I had to get that organized. I was like, yo, Lali, we need to do something with this guy. It can be something small, but we need to do something, right? Bring him to a game or whatever. And then the schedule met up and we brought him to his first ever hockey game in general. So him and his wife, Mandeep, actually came. And for that experience, for me, like it was unreal because I'm seeing an artist that I loved growing up. And people like Ravina Toor, who's from Edmonton as well, got inspired from him, his art. And now that he's coming to join a game and like learning more about us and stuff, like just me telling my story to him and his story to us, like all that. I don't know if you guys know, when Shubdeep was doing his tour in India, he got backlash for his art and stuff. So his tour got canceled. That was Inquisitive, had a little bit of play in that as well. So just hating our community and stuff and how he showcased that. So his stories and stuff when we were sitting at the Oilers game, and then just an incredible experience done, just like a small part that I can play in order to grow the game even more. That was a huge step forward. So
to close it out, we just want you guys, first of all, thank you for guys joining us. This was a lot of fun for sure. But before we officially end it here, we'll start off with Lali. Words of advice to up and coming media guys, up and coming athletes, stuff. Where could people find Apna Hockey and all that? Any questions they have, where can they reach out to you? Just overall words of wisdom, I guess, from both of you guys.
Yeah. Hey, if you're ever feeling alone, go to Instagram. Look at Apna Hockey, whether it be a hockey player, a fan, a media member. If you have aspirations of becoming a media member, connect, follow us, reach out. Because we're here to uplift, right? If someone wants to come in, like even a kid like Tanroop reached out to me, I'm like, hey, come on board, work with us, volunteer with us, build your resume. Maybe one day you get a call from the Edmonton Oilers saying, hey, we're going to do Punjabi. We're going to do commentary in Punjabi. Tanroop, we want you. Our platform is here to help everybody, right? We do not pull legs on with anyone. We are here to uplift our community. So when it comes to anything hockey related, give us a follow, DM us. We're on Facebook and Instagram, and anything you need, we're always here. We're kind of like we're the safety net of the community now, right? We got your back.
100%. I think one of the biggest ones that I've noticed is like people keep texting me about like, yo, like, how do I get this role, or how do I get this job, or, you know, you're with Apna Hockey, how do I get connections over here? Like, I have a lot of buddies. I think the biggest thing is don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone, because once you're in there, once you're in your little bubble, you won't get much far. So I took a step out, and then honestly, it's been a lot of steps out, right? And then don't be afraid to wear a lot of hats. You got to try what works, what doesn't work. So all the young media people out there, or even just in general, the youngsters out there, just try everything. Like it's a risk-free environment right now where you can just try it out and see if it works out. You know, I had lots of volunteer opportunities that I've done that didn't work out, but did some work out. Don't be afraid to throw as many hats on as possible and to just put yourself out there. Like, use yourself as a brand and put yourself as a brand out there to see, like, to have people notice on you, you know? And it's just a matter of fact of growth. Growth is not going to come in a day. It's going to come a long, long time if you put the effort in. So once the effort's there and the passion's there, the consistency's there, you have a right formula for success.
So that's words of wisdom from both Apna Hockey, both guys from Apna Hockey, Tanroop and Lali. We appreciate you boys once again for joining us. It was a lot of fun discussions here, a lot of good hockey talk at the end as well. All their both of their links plus Apna Hockey link, it will be in the description below. So make sure you guys follow all these guys as well. And everybody else for watching, we appreciate you guys tuning in once again, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.